We'll start in 1 minute, Leslie. All right, it's 5 o'clock, so let's get started. Again, thank you for everyone for joining us here at week 9 of these webinars. And this webinar is a continuation from last week's webinar on kneeling, walking, breathing, the bias within. It was such a great conversation that we had last week that we had to continue it this week because we felt that there wasn't enough time to fully discuss everything that was going on. So with that being said, I do want to thank everyone for joining us. If it's your first time, again, welcome. If you've been with us for the past 8 weeks, welcome back again. Just want to go over the rules really quick. I wouldn't say rules, but just guidelines to go by. If you have a question, please just put your number, sequential number into the chat. And at that point, Leslie or I will be able to see it, and we'll be able to open up your mic to pose your question. And with that being said, with no further ado, I will hand this over to Leslie to get us started.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks again for joining. I truly appreciate it. I know last week was heavy for a lot of us, and just want to continue the conversation because, needless to say, this is one of many conversations that we will share on race and racism and the difference between race, racism, and races. Some of the questions that I asked last week was, what's the price to pay, or is there a price to pay? And then I also asked, do you see and hear us now? Are you still asking what to do? Tell us how you're going to help and be accountable. So that's a lot to put in. So we didn't really get a chance to do a lot of question and answer last week. So I really want to take this week to be able to answer questions, share thoughts. It's been a heavy week for me personally. I've had the joy of working with a lot of companies writing statements. I've had the pain of working with a lot of companies writing statements. It is confusing, to say the least. And if you know me, you know I am going to be blunt and I'm going to call it as it is, but it's been very confusing and very difficult for white people to figure out what to do. And as most Blacks are going, please don't ask me right now what to do. We're trying to figure out how we feel because it's a different kind of wound. And a week later, I think many of us probably still feel that way. This is not going away. This is going to be a conversation that needs to be had. I applaud everyone for attempting the conversation. I also want to do a banner that have the conversation amongst your friends, your family, your colleagues, but also educate yourself. And let's not assume that just your experience is what this is about. Because I've heard people sharing stories and they've made it about themselves and not about the big picture as a whole. And yes, we need to share our stories, but more than anything, we need to continue to educate ourselves to move this forward. So I'll take this time to ask questions. Let's have the conversation. But the big picture is, once we finish with white pain and Black anger, and do we say people of color or Black folks or African American, or the one that's just taking me over edge, that can be a whole nother topic, BIPOC, we just adding all kind of stuff together again, because Lord knows we just can't say Black. That is still a hard thing for people to say. And I know when I'm on the phone with clients or people that I'm doing speaking engagements with, and I will be like, I need you to just go ahead and say it. Say it. Black folk, Black, whatever. That's a different conversation than the diversity and inclusion conversation that is than people of color. Though we are all under the same umbrella, there are different segments to that. And the reason I just want to take a moment to say that as you're putting your questions in, I want to say that to say, now companies are running, we need diversity and inclusion, we need to hire Black people. Well, Do you need diversity and inclusion, or are you just looking to hire a Black person? And when you bring a Black person in or a person of color, once they're in, what next? Are you prepared for what's next? Are you prepared to continue these conversations? One of the biggest things I received today was from a client that a PR agency who I've worked with years ago reached out and said, I can't do this conversation. I can spin a story all day for a press release, but this is not what this is. And we tap out. We'll work with you, but I'd like to introduce you to my client. And it was wonderful. I mean, it was in Colorado. So yes, it was predominantly white, with a sprinkling of people of color and 9 Black people. But they called back today and said, so we just started. In 5 weeks or 4 weeks, we need you to come back in because that's when the new budget starts. In the meantime, we're working on what you gave us. It's going to be a process. This is not overnight, and nor do I expect it to be overnight, nor is anyone else expecting anything substantial to change overnight. Now, we've seen laws change. We've seen bills being written. We've seen a lot of things happening. Yes.
So, I mean, starting off with the first question, this is just my feelings. It seems like there's a lot of talk out there and hardly any action. And what I mean by that is that all of these companies came out and saying, hey, we stand with Black Lives Matter, we stand with this, or we want to contribute or donate this. But it's almost like the stimulus that came out, the stimulus that came out. Like, where is it really going to the people that need it? Where are the things that are really happening for the people that truly need it to make the change in there? Because I don't want this to be a second cycle of, hey, we're going to jump on the bandwagon as a company and put out these statements. And then, a year down the line from now, we're still having this discussion. 5 years down the line from now, we're still having this discussion. So I guess, I mean, I know you said not to ask how people could help, how people can help you, but is there any type of information out there that we could point to, me being a person of color or Black person, as I call myself, being able to point to say, hey, here's some resources and here's some actionable steps you can take?
So I'm not saying don't ask. The difference is I'm getting it's been 400 years. What do I do? Oh, so now the Black girl is supposed to figure this out in 72 hours or 24 hours or on a phone call? Now you're pressuring me to figure it out for you? I can't do that part. I'm saying before you start asking, educate yourself. Educate yourself in, do you even like the Negro College Fund? Do you like Black Lives Matter? What do they stand for? Maybe they don't stand for what your spirit or what your company is. So, but there's enough other companies and things that you can align yourself with. If, like I said, if children are your thing, why are you trying to jump and go in a parade if that parade is not your thing? If children are your thing and maybe there's a library of books that's your thing, then if you're always in the library, make sure that they have books by Black authors. Make sure that Black authors are coming in to do story time outside of Black History Month and now Juneteenth month, Black History Month, AKA. Make sure so you can do that. You have to, when you decide what you're going to do, if you decide you're going to do anything personally and with your company, you have to actually sit back and go, who am I and what do I bring to the table? What is my strength? What are my resources? And resources doesn't always mean a check. What can I do? Can I introduce someone to someone? Can I make that connection? Did I hear about a grant? Can I share that? But last week, what was happening is everybody was coming. Like I was supposed to answer, I was supposed to solve the world. And granted, it's my job. And so I finally had to write to someone and say, I am Black. I was Black last week before you all realized that. I pray I'm going to stay Black in the week coming forward. Diversity and inclusion is my passion, but is also my job. So you're asking me to do something, not want to pay me for it, and you want me to solve the world's problem, and you're giving me a deadline. So educate yourself, take the time. The Smithsonian I do not work for them because everyone's like, you keep saying that. But since they have a massive exhibition that they were supposed to release at the end of the year and released early, goes through the history, has things for children, speaks about current events. It's such a mix. That's one way. And then come back and ask questions. I don't understand. Please explain this to me if you don't mind. But most Black folks are like, yo, it's not my responsibility right now. We've been shouting this forever. There's a problem. Now you want to jump in on the conversation? Now and I said to someone as I'm preparing for a speaking engagement, they were like, well, what do we do? What do we do? I said, you're trying to get through the front door. Do you not realize Blacks have had to go through the back door, side door, and the window for most of their careers? Why are you trying to jump in on the front door of a Black Lives Matter conversation and you never speak to Black folks as far as your company goes? There was never an effort. There was a ride along, right? Again, the Black Lives Matter, people of color, and diversity and inclusion are different conversations. Diversity and inclusion, I've said it before and I'll continue to say it. For me, you don't have a full conversation about diversity and inclusion unless you are speaking about gender, race, LGBTQ plus, and disabilities and veterans. And I get mad because I think veterans should be their own and they shouldn't be shoved under diversity and inclusion. But that's just a personal thing. I digress. So educate yourself on what you think is important to you. And then you figure out what you can do. And then start working on it a little bit before you come and go, oh my God, I want to start a fund and I want to do this. And will you invest in it? So you want the Black girl with a small business to invest in Black people with a small business because I'm not out here trying to do my small business. Huh. Well, that's a way of thinking. And yes, we all have to help each other. But again, I can't figure all of it out for you. Yet I'm happy to take a beat when you have halfway to say, I want to make sure I'm moving in the right direction after a certain point. Does that make sense? I lost my, I'm not paying attention to chat. So how you leave me? So I hope that did I answer your question?
Yeah, that was a good answer. And I see that Brian has a question as well too. So I know you typed it in there, Brian, but feel free to ask it verbally as well.
So I'm seeing over the last couple of weeks, well, week and a half, I got really vocal with Rotary International, and suddenly, and I'm seeing it everywhere, where it's really like, oh, we're going to have diversity and inclusion, but it's sort of feeling like when there's a shooting and we have thoughts and prayers for everybody, that it's really just sort of like, this is the thing that we're doing, but there's really no action tied to it. And so I'm just sort of exploring how to best tie together actions for a variety of people, not just, I live in San Francisco. It's easy to have the conversation with people around me, but when I'm talking to people in, Dallas, how do I have that conversation? Or Alabama, just because it's a more difficult conversation in that world.
If I can speak to 300 white folks and they're all looking at me in the squares, and I'm, on a big screen of warehouses, and I held them to, what can you be accountable for? So that's what I'm asking people to do, not just prayers and thoughts and hashtag I'm sorry is broken, my new hashtag. If you're writing it on the paper, how are you going to do it? So one of the companies I worked for took off the check box on their application if you went to prison. They don't know. They do background checks on all their employees, but you no longer have to check the box that you've been in prison. So that was an actionable thing they could do, right? Then and they kept saying, what's the committee? I said, well, who's running the committee? The same people that were sitting in the office that wasn't thinking about this a week ago is now going to run the committee. So no, can you commit to doing a photo shoot and adding other arms and hands to your website that's not stock photos? Where is your statement going to live? Have you put it on the pop-up? Because one company did a decent statement, And I went on their website and they directed everyone to their website. I went on their website, I'm reading it, and guess what the pop-up was? A little white baby. So I said, whoever you hired that you said you worked with the consultant, they did this. No offense to anyone, but you didn't think of all the other actionable steps that go along with that. It's advertising. It is, who are you going to have that's not going to be the face of your company for Black folks or for people of color? How do you expand your reach to speak to the community? And that means you have to do your research. So, Brian, if you're having a conversation with Rotary, right? And God bless them, they sponsored me back in the day for a beauty pageant. So I always love the Rotary. But it's having the conversation back in that day, because they sponsored me, they actually came to my father and said, we're trying to diversify. Will you work with us? And to this day, he's still there. And it has expanded since then. Ask the circle that was in, who do you know? Who can you suggest? Who can we start having conversations with? And just say, how are we going to be accountable? And let them, you don't have to figure it out for them. That's the thing. No one's responsible for figuring it out. It's a collective. How can we be accountable? What can we do? We wrote a check. Great. Are we just going to leave the check there? Are we going to invite them to certain things? Are we going to ask someone from that company to sit on our advisory board? Maybe it's not the board. Maybe it's the advisory board. Maybe it is the board. And you have to tie it in that way. And so it's small steps. Everyone's looking for the grand gesture of the parade down the street instead of going, what's accountable? I said to someone today that's in their office, that's a design firm, I'm like, you have all these design books. I don't see any by Black architects, Black poetry for the others. I don't see any. How about expanding what's in your office? So it's really ask them, Brian, anyone, how can we be accountable? What are the things that we know we can do that we can actually get done? And not 10 months from now, what can we do now? And what can we build towards for 10 months from now? I didn't mean to cut you off, but I hope that helped. I think Nancy had a question. Oh, I saw a name. So, I don't read the chats, but so keep your questions coming. So, because these are the types of questions we need to be answering now. Like how, yes, there's a lot of platitude coming. There's a lot of, we're so sorry. We didn't know. We hear you and see you. Well, I keep going, we've seen you and we've heard you. Now, what are you going to do? And it's not up to us to figure that out. You have to go, what's the foundation of my company? What do we need? So yeah, there's the grand gestures of people stepping down off of boards, put a Black woman there, put a person of color there. Is that the answer? No, you're just plugging people in because it's the same thing we go back into. If you bring someone in and they don't feel welcome, that they don't feel like they have a voice at the table, then you just plugged a hole. And we don't need that anymore. We're asking for equity. One, asking for you all to listen and stop running down like it's a fire. Y'all just picked up and it's like, fire hose, let's go. We got to do something. And I'm calling that white guilt. So stop. You weren't guilty 2 weeks ago. So stop with the guilt and let's figure out how we work together. How do we build together? How do we promote together? Everyone's coming at us with, will you speak? Will you do this? Will you do that? Do that? Oh, you want to get paid? Oh, we can't do that. So I said to someone, so is that as creative as you can get in a pandemic, or just saying, I can't pay you, but come speak? Is there no other way? What is your added value? Oh, well, let's see. We have a library. We have this, we have this, we have that, we have that. I said, so that's how you come, at least offer something. You have a book that's coming out. You have a podcast. You have this. How can we aid you with this? We'd love to. But there's no thought process. And so when you write these statements, is it going to be your website? Is it going to be your board? Is it going to be your advisory board? Is it going to be your staff? How are you training within? Hiring a director of our head of diversity and inclusion today means zero. if you don't have a budget and a staff for them to execute. You can't hire them and expect them to be the event person, because that's what's been happening. And let's be clear, 2 weeks ago, a lot of companies, I think I said this before, was dismantling their D&I departments. So we went from a pandemic, firing people, get rid of marketing, PR, but they're used to that. Don't say nothing about, let's just slide them to belonging group and all this other stuff. And then a white man puts his knee in the neck of a black man while we're all home and we get to count the 8 minutes and it's, oh shit, well, now we got to do something. Well, you needed to do something from a diversity and inclusion standpoint, and I said what all of that means before. You didn't listen when several Black people within companies have said there is an unjust here. There's an unjust in salaries, there's an unjust in position, there's an unjust. That was, you're being the angry Black woman, or we need you to stay there. Well, now we're in the door. Now you've decided to kind of join us. Still not sure how to do it. Ask, but figure it out amongst yourself, then ask, is this beneficial? Because we need it to be beneficial to us. We need to be beneficial to you. Nothing is going to happen without all of us together. That's the big over the mountain goal that we have. How do we get there together? And everybody doesn't want to get there. And so everyone keeps saying to me, well, let's see, if they're on the calls that you're on, they want to get there. Not necessarily. I did a call last week. And in the chat, somebody clearly put, is this a joke? Why do we care? Why do we have to care about Black Lives Matter? Well, number one, baby, nobody asked you to join. That's the first thing. You registered. 2, you don't have to care about anything. But where we are today is there is a tide. I do believe there's a tide that's changing. Everyone wanted to, go back to statements for a second. Everyone wanted to be Ben and Jerry. We want to be like Ben and Jerry's of our industry. Well, guess what? You're not the Ben and Jerry's of Ben and Jerry's, and you're not the Ben and Jerry's of your industry. You can't all of a sudden jump in and say, I'm going to be social justice. And now I'm going to say F this and screw that, and we're going to make an ice cream. That's not, they have been there. They're in this road. They have traveled this. They live this. Okay? You're just joining the party, not to put it lightly, but you just woke up, and I don't like the word woke, so I'm not saying woke, but you just woke up to there's an injustice that you now have to recognize, and you can't make up 400 years. So stop it. Not that it's not my job to take it off, but I let me give you that permission. Please stop. You can't make up 400, and no one's asking you to. What we're asking is for the rightful justice for which we have deserved and earned and need to move towards. I want you to pick the best person for the job. When you're looking for that job, I want you to take your fishing net and go outside of the normal places you may look for candidates. Yes.
And just a quick question. I mean, what does that look like as far as from a corporate standpoint or from a brand? Like, what type of tangible KPIs can we look at, say, a year down the line from now, 2 years down the line from now, or 5 years down the line from now, to say that this company has done X, Y, and Z, and they've now moved, towards something that's a little bit more equitable? Because, and the reason why I asked that question has been in part because everybody was throwing out these statements or wanting to throw out these statements or wanting to throw money out there. But then it's like, okay, well, where's this going? Like, what is this actually going to do? Is it something from a hiring standpoint? Is that the answer? Is it something from an actual department within an organization that looks at these things from a hiring standpoint to a company culture standpoint, or is it company culture? And just to add to that, one tangible thing I do see that my hometown is doing, Jacksonville, Florida. They've now gone through and torn down a lot of the a lot of the Confederate monuments that were up there. And they're thinking about renaming a lot of the schools that were named after Confederate generals as well, too. So from a corporate standpoint, I mean, obviously you can't go around doing, renaming things but from a corporate standpoint, what are some of the tangible like actions that can be quantifiable, 6 months down the line from now or a year down the line from now?
Well, number one, if you're looking at it that way, you're already looking at it the wrong way, as far as I'm concerned. Okay. So if you are going, because again, it's the same thing as you can say you can commit to hiring Black folks and people of color, and if you could have a whole room full of them, and if they still have if they can't have the power to write a check or a power to vote within the company or any of those things, even as a leadership level, but they are still held down, then you're no better than where you started. You're actually made the problem worse. You just threw something at it. So if you are going to do that, if you're throwing money at, let me take that back. If you are writing a check at this moment and putting it toward an organization, again, I hope you're going to be supporting that organization, that's going to be not a one-time check, but you figured out how you're going to support that organization, and then figuring out again how that organization plays into your company culture. Is it a day of giving towards everyone? Is it, if it's a company that's building houses, that you go out and that's part of a company thing? But again, you have to make that. There is no cookie cutter way for this to work. So every company has to look. Some of that money that's being all of a sudden found, because I'm shocked how the departments were getting cut last week. And then all of a sudden, all his money was found to start writing check to Black Lives Matter. And and there's nothing against any of the organizations. I want to be clear on that. I just find it very suspicious. There was no money, and now there's all this money. So take that money and hire a C-suite person. Hire the C-suite person that has a voice, that has a staff, that has voting rights, that can sit not only, again, I'm not concerned just about you being a diversity and inclusion person and making sure we have the right language only in the handbook. I want you to be able to sit in the advertising meeting, in the marketing meeting, and in the meetings with the attorneys. That C-suite D&I person has got to have the liberty to be in those meetings, to work with human resources in the PR department, to build a cohesive and solid, sustainable, accountable D&I department.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, it is, again, you're plugging that hole, but you're not actually filling the hole. So monuments, that's a whole nother topic. I don't believe in taking down history. I'd rather have a plaque explaining it, and something you can take your phone up to, a QR code that gives you the history and understand. We're not erasing it by taking it down. I get some of the changing of the school names. Yes, I love that. But some of the statues, honestly, this is my personal thing. Educate. Because see, we're in America are quick to want to tear stuff down. We are the brush it under the rug country. We can't brush what happened under the rug. We need to teach, educate, and move out of that. Use it as a tool for teaching, for education, for building, to say we never want to go back there. That's what that represents, and that is no longer acceptable. But again, that's me. So do a new plaque, explain it, have a link that goes back to something, be part of a tour, as we need to start educating young folks on what our history is of this country. We just can't pretend that we did a march. And let's be clear, in the United States, marching this racial protest, this justice and peace protest, out of tax day, national holidays, and voting day, 50 states never does anything on the same schedule. And 50 states in 18 countries marched. I want you to think about that. All 50 states in 18 international countries all came together. Now, with that type of power, we see bills changing, legislation changing. You want to do something in your company? Bring in consultants, have them speak on a consistent basis. It's not a 1 hour, 2 hour gig. A client came to me and said, I want you in once a month. I need you to look over every project we do. That's the commitment we made. That's the commitment. And we've asked you to come do it. You know, they came today and said, we know we don't have our contract with you yet, but do we keep our statement up? Yes or no? Yes. It stays in the newsletter. Thank you. We thought so as well. We don't want it to be a one-off thing. So someone said to me, so go ahead.
We have a question from Jennifer. So Jennifer, if you could just unmute your mic and ask the question. Thank you.
Hi, Leslie. Well, I started at a very old, large corporate institution right before the pandemic. And we do a lot externally. Like, since this has happened, they've committed a lot of money outwardly. And I asked, what are we doing internally? What dialogues are we having within? Because no one on my team has brought up, and it's very vague. It's a predominantly white team, and it was hard for me to do. I'm the new employee. They're like, I don't know, what. I'm just wondering what advice, what steps can I take to sort of bring this up internally within a company that's pretty set in their ways, is saying one thing outwardly, maybe not reflecting that internally.
So you started the right conversation. What are we doing? And if they say, I don't know, you say, well, you know what? I do know. Here's one thing we can do. I know someone that can come speak to us. And then from there, we can figure out how it gets built on what we can do internally. And I think that's for any company. And it's not about me. It's about, sometimes you may have to Google or research who in your state or country, but it can actually have these conversations. And it is going, while we gave all this stuff externally, but we've never had the conversation internally. Can we do that? Because people are asking me about, and you can make it about yourself. People are asking about what we've done outside, and hey, what's it like on the inside? And I don't have an answer for them. I like to be able to give them an answer. That's one of the ways you can do it. I just like to be able to give an answer. Now, I've gotten the calls that, I work at a very millennium company. And all the young people are like, tear the system apart, rewrite the handbook, do all these things. And they're like, yeah, we really can't do that. But, there was ways that we can bring somebody in. Let's start trainings. Here's what we know we can do. We can look to see where else we can partner with support other smaller companies that's in our atmosphere, and be able to be able to let them use our office space or screening rooms. So there's been a lot of that I see happening as well. Like, here's our resources. We don't have money to cut, but we have 2 screening rooms. Feel free to use it as events. So we have to get creative. Did I help you, Jen, a little bit? Okay. Because I know you're good about, hey, this is not right. And keep saying, sometimes we have to say something's off. We did so much outside. What are we doing inside? That's the simple question. That's a conversation you're going to need to have with some companies.
Yeah, I just think marketers are smart. They're savvy about what to put out, but it's put the money where the mouth is. We're in a time where we should be having facilitated conversations like this.
Absolutely. And so what I said to someone that called and said, oh, my company is doing a committee now, and I know the company. And I said, oh, that's great. Who's leading the conversation? Crickets. And I was like, no, seriously, who's leading the conversation? Because I know them. So I was like, and they're like, yeah, that's the problem. There's no one there. We can have the conversation all day, but there's no one to facilitate how to maneuver and how to build from it. We're all just going to be, it's a company meeting. We're having a company meeting. And I was like, well, that doesn't help you if you're not advancing the conversation. You have to have the conversation about race at this moment. It's really that simple. You have to have the conversation about race. And then if you're doing D&I and you want to build that department, you have to have that conversation. What does that look like for all of those areas? How do we build this? Those are different conversations that need to be had. And for small companies that keep telling me, well, I don't have any money, you have a collective. This is a time where I've said from when the pandemic started, this is about partnership. If you get together a small business and say, hey, how do we do this? How do we either put a little bit in the pot for somebody to give an honorarium? How do we do this so that we all can get the knowledge to try to build? But no one seems like they want to talk and they want to run, but they're not really doing the work. And I don't think I'm that smart. I don't think I'm that smart to say, hey, how do we partner? How do we build a collective if we're a small business so that we can find someone to have this conversation with us? Because it's not fair to keep asking your Black friends to explain race to me. We tried to tell you that when we walked into a restaurant and they didn't want to seat us and you weren't listening to us at that point and you said, nah, Leslie, that's not it. So now that the shout is out, I'm asking to listen, to educate yourself, and then when you ask someone, come with a foundation of what you think you may need. Because folks are still tired. Let me put that backwards. We're all still ringing from this. Black folks still tired. It's just that simple. We are not okay. Just because that happened last week, this week is not that much better. Now, you can't stay in the same spot, right? So we have to keep moving. This is what I do for a living, so I got to get up and keep it moving. I've got to put it and compartmentalize my personal to where I want to make sure that what I'm giving will be helpful for people to move this forward. If you're going to write a commitment, if you're going to write a statement, and this was my thing for some of the statements, if you don't say Black Lives Matter and you keep trying to write POC and trying to rearrange it, then don't write the statement. Stop. You've missed the mark. The conversation at this moment is Black Lives Matter. I'm clear all lives matter. No one ever said your life didn't matter. So if you're scared to put pen to paper on Black Lives Matter or wrap your lips around the word Black, don't do the statement. And then if you're writing the statement and it's the same old platitude of, we're so heartbroken, we're so devastated, we're exhausted. Are you now? Well, welcome. Welcome to being exhausted. So how are you gonna fix your exhaustion? Because I can't help you if you're tired right now. If you have Black friends, take an extra step. What do I mean by take an extra step? They're in the office with their office mask on. You know how we all dress from the waist up for webinars now? They're sitting from the neck up trying to get through it. Waiting for someone to say all lives matter for them to want to take their laptop and throw it through the window. For them to still be either the smartest person in the room because you need help with this, but not invited to the meeting 2 hours later on a project they were working on. I don't make this stuff up. So if you're serious about the change, if you're serious about commitments, whatever commitment you may have written, whether you're going to expand your research on looking to hire Black employees, you're going to go outside of not only HSBCU colleges, but you're going to actually take time and figure out where you're going to connect with. There's local stores you can connect with. You're going to do your research on that and bring them in. I said to the salesman that I was speaking to, and I was like, hint, hint, I just told you what to say when you show up at a Black retailer store when you've never been there. We have made a commitment to expand our reach, our products, and aid everyone, all of our small business, but especially our Black businesses into our folder of our company. We would like to show you what we're doing. We would like to know what you're doing. Is there a way that we can now bring you on as a vendor? What do you need that may or may not be right for us, for you? That's hard to say because we're so used to selling and saying how great we are. What's your added value now for us to join you? Because we've had to build so much on our own for so long. For some people, they're like, I don't need a partner, I'm good. I believe in partnership. I believe that's the strength, especially when you're a small business, but I believe it when you're a bigger business. All partnerships are not equal. All partnerships don't look alike, but you need to respect, if you're asking for something, respect the fact that people are doing business and people want to do business. Don't treat it any less than, and it's sad that I have to say that, but it even had to go up on LinkedIn this week, that because you're now running to be part of Black business, don't disrespect it like we're supposed to be happy you finally realized we've been sitting here. Okay? Come with the contract. And if you know your contract at 800 pages, then you should be able to offer, here's what we're doing for small business, here's what we're doing for Black. We have lawyers, we have this, we have that, we have that. We're going to make our entryway not as high for small business as it would be for a large retailer. You have to figure out what makes sense for you because we're paying attention. So all the lovely statements, I'm going to tell you who I think is great. Okay, Ben and Jerry's, I got to give it to them. You know, but baby name, the babynames.com, have you seen that? Now, the baby name company did not need to get into this conversation at all whatsoever. Nobody was looking for them to say a word. And they came through and they named everyone in the last, I think, 5 or 6 years that we know of. They definitely did over 30 hashtags that surpassed the 30 hashtags Blacks killed. And they said this was somebody's baby. Choosing a name means something. And I was like, well, look at here. Nobody was expecting a doggone thing from you. Thank you for the surprise. Wow. So whatever's going on in that company, I will never not be having a baby. So for all my young friends that plan on having them, you better believe I'm gonna be like, could you look for your name on babyname.org, .com, or whatever they are, because they came through. They came through, but I didn't even know I needed them to come through. No? Any questions? Comments, thoughts? So tell me this. How are you all feeling? It's been a week later. How are you feeling? Okay, blank screen, seriously. How are you feeling? Because I've spoken to so many of you on an individual basis, and I know I've cried with some of you on individual basis. Some of you called me and I just didn't have the strength, and you said, okay, I'm here. So Black, white, yellow, green, how are you feeling? Okay, I'll do a twist. How are you feeling about the situation? How are you feeling about companies? What do you see? I'm looking at it through different eyes. Is that Peter? Hey, Peter.
Yes. Hi. I'm really curious how my company is going to respond, and I've gotten nothing. I've not heard from anybody in the higher places, and I've been spending a lot of time thinking about what I'm going to say if nobody comes to me. And for me specifically, I've had a lot of feelings about how my personal journey, when I've been pushing out and getting comfortable talking about my own experience and how that relates to this experience, and trying to navigate the feelings about still the fact that I have privilege in the situation, but still trying to deal with the fact or hold space for the fact that I'm still not where I want to be in my conversation around my diversity. So that's where I'm at.
A place like the rest of us, yeah. So Can I say something about privilege? You can't change your white skin, or you can tan, but you're still going to be white. I can bleach, I'm still going to be black. Your white privilege has the power to help us have conversations and open doors that we may or may not be able to do. So again, the guilt for having the white power, the white privilege of power and access, figure out how do you open the door for someone. I know you work in theater. Maybe that's like, hey, this is the best person to connect to if you want, you've been trying to get in theater. You know, I don't know if it's going to work, but you know, I know you've been trying. This is how they audition. This is really who makes decisions. Having that little tip of information is powerful because we're not on the inside and may not know. And, you know, by the time you wrap around sometimes about your privilege, we're going to be down the road again. Something else will have happened. You know, I'm not paying attention to the chat, but I think I saw somebody say, give Colin back give him his job. Well, here's the thing. We need to not assume he wants the job right now. We need to go ask him, does he want to go back? Because he automatically just, oh, I'm gonna open the door for you now. Because literally, I also saw a statement like that. Well, now that we will give you the access to, whoa. What you say now? Thank you for opening the Golden Gate? No. He may say, you know, he actually has more power, more leverage now than he did when he took a knee silently. Now, football is his passion in his life, and I can't speak for him. I don't know him. Would love to do anything with him, like, because I just think he's brilliant, but maybe he doesn't want to go back. So as part of the privilege that we all have, we can't assume because now that something may be open. Look, the NFL has had an ad up for a diversity and inclusion person for over a year. They had it up for 4 months. They took it down for a month. They had it up for 2 months. I was like, oh, I see you. Y'all's just slick. Y'all are slick with that. Oh, you just keep putting it up and taking it down. I see you nod your head. You keep putting it up and taking it down. You can't find nobody anywhere to fill that position. Interesting. So I need to see what they are going to do past lip service. Because I saw the NFL and I just went, no, exclamation mark, nope, exclamation mark. Empty. Where's your sustainable, tangible, and actionable actions? I'm holding you accountable. So as you go into your offices and they may or may not make statements, right? And even if they don't make a statement, you still get to say, where is our role in this? Where is our role? And where do you see change happening here? Some people I think shouldn't have made statements, but they're like, your silence says a mile, but your silence, if you're working internally to actually make change and things are happening, that's not silent. That means more to me than a statement. So I think in all our haste to do good, to make it right, to feel better about ourselves, you need to step back and say, what is this? Why are we doing this? Why am I part of this? And how do we make it so that it makes sense to the people we're speaking to? Because right now, folks are doing it for about themselves. The statements is not for the Black community. A lot of the statements that were written was written for the white community. And some of them were written so that their board members, they could say their board members, they did something, but they didn't want to piss off their board members and vendors. And so one company statement I saw, I knew who they were, and I know the one Black person that works there, and she said, you know what, they asked me to read over and I refused, because I would not have my hands dirty by that. I refused to look over the statement. She goes, because I tell you, whatever they wrote, they weren't going to live up to it anyway. And when my friends and family asked me about the statement, I want no parts of it. And unfortunately, when I saw the statement, and she was like, Dad, maybe I should have looked at it. She felt bad because she was like, woo, maybe. I was like, yeah, yeah. It was very condescending. It was very condescending. We're opening the Golden Gates for you. And we've always given you an opportunity to work. Huh. Huh. Thanks. No thanks. Misha, did you see something else? I see your face. Was there other questions? He's frozen. Kim, how are you feeling? You're
Why you gonna call me out? Why?
Because I speak to you just about every morning. And so so Kim and I speak just about every morning, and we go through news stories. And we're like this. Did you see? Did you see? Did you read it?
Did you see? Did you read? Hi everyone. I just feel exactly what you expressed. If a statement is going to be made, then it has to be sustainable. Don't just make a statement because you're feeling guilty or at this time it makes your company look good. I think also that people are going to remember who said what when they said it. And I also think a lot of it is going to be the power is in the dollar. I've already had conversations with people that are like, oh, so I see this one did make a statement. I mean, the industry that I work in, the insurance people did not make a statement. I didn't see anything from the construction industry, not surprised. But, certain things I think that we also, accountability, sustainability, and I think we have to remember who is making an effort and who is not, and who's making an effort because they want to make themselves look good. And a good example is what you said about the NFL. Now, when I saw the advertisement, and forgive me, I'm not trying to, be disrespectful, but I felt like when I saw Roger Goodell make that statement, I felt like Jay-Z was kicking him under the table. Like, say something. So I'm going to sign off on that note.
Yeah. Nancy, anything?
I don't even have a space to say that I feel exhausted because I'm not, I am exhausted, but I'm not dealing with what you guys have been dealing with in the same level. I've been in this work for a long time, but, I guess in one way I can relate at a new level because there's a gentleman in one of my professional groups that is from Columbus, Georgia, and he's been missing since Friday. Black man.
Right, let's be clear. Missing out of the meeting?
No, he's missing. There's a newspaper story. If you look him up, his name is Dwayne Bankston, and he's just missing. And I think that was, I just get what the Black community's been dealing with on a whole different level. I've had people in my life die. I've gone through things, but I mean, we're all really in fear for this man's life right now. A grown man, 44 years old, just disappears off the face of the earth. And it's definitely taken it to a whole new level for me. And I've got your back and I'm in this game, but it's deep. And when I feel this,
2020 has taken us through a lot of emotion of whether it's pandemic, whether it's a lot of death from the pandemic, then the world took a turn again. And here we are now. And I'm going to keep saying it graphically so we do not forget someone sat on someone's neck for 8 and something minutes, for all of us to stop and really go, what is happening? Like, we were already going, what's happening? But we could see the light at the tunnel, maybe kind of, sort of. The numbers kept going down. And at that same time, thank you, 8 minutes and 46 seconds. I always say, because I box, a round is 3 minutes. 3 minutes in the ring, 30 seconds out. That was 3 rounds of boxing that someone sat on someone's neck. For the world to finally have to say, wow, there's an unjust here. And I honestly think if we weren't sitting at home during a pandemic, that it would have gotten swept right underneath the rug. So now that the rug is peeled back, now that the funeral is over, now that we go on to the next thing, because we will go on to the next thing, we cannot let this ever be swept back under the rug. And when I say this, the understanding of unjust, the understanding that we all feel and hurt, but it's not all to the same degree. You have people that are mocking photos on the ground with their necks on their friend's neck. You have people still doing blackface. You have people running over protesters with cars. You have people coming out of their cars with blades. Let's be very clear. Everyone is not part of this march towards being just, right, and just as human beings, as a Black life, as a person of color, as a white life. We have to figure out how we walk this road together. But everyone does not want that. So I keep saying, what can you do? You can vote. What can you do? Censors. What can you do? Like I said, go to the library. What can you do? If you're in legislature, if you're a lobbyist, write your Congress people. They are up for seats right now. Know what bills, pay attention to that kind of stuff. They're changing the chokehold. Sign petitions. You can give money, but again, give it to the places that you feel you know where it's going and it's making a difference. If it's not, go to your neighbor, know who's in your neighborhood, shop Black, buy Black, but don't do it just because they're Black. Do it because their product is there and you want to expand your horizons of gifts that you give or food that you eat. Share invites, share knowledge. That's the only way that we will begin to move this forward. The fight is not one alone. The fight is all of us together that want to be part of the fight. Any other questions? Anyone else would like to share how they're feeling or thoughts on companies or? Hey, Brian.
I have something that's just been weighing on me a lot, and I'm just kind of trying to figure out how to preemptively approach it because, you know, throughout all of this, we're still in the middle of a pandemic. and because of the marches, and it was already disproportionately affecting, you know, Black people and people of color prior to this, and it's absolutely going to be affecting them 2 weeks from now. You know, I mean, we're seeing that with Memorial Day in all the places that opened up earlier. It's suddenly an issue, and so it's sort of like, how do we move forward? And it's just something that's sort of frustrating, I guess, because I deal, you know, my husband works on it all the time, so it's something that I'm constantly dealt with. But it's like, how are we helping people with that? How are we able to make sure that we're doing what we can to do that? And at least as a group, how are we conscious about that so that we can be able to help people when it's needed? Because it's going to be needed.
So here in New York, the governor has actually what has said, anyone that has ever protested, if you were in a march, go get tested. And they've actually built new testing and additional testing in neighborhoods of color. And so it's for free. And they're like, we don't care. Just go get tested now. And so that's one way to San Francisco. So, you said they're doing the same thing. So be part of that. You know what? If it's nothing but putting, okay, I'm telling my age now, putting flyers up or typing on community boards that I know that says go, here's where the testing sites are, because that's part of it. People don't know where the testing sites are. And put it down, the testing sites are here and they're free. If you've been in a march, go for it. So it's helping spread the word. If you have that community board or community, you know, just email, whatever, get it out on the streets. You know, if you know someone at the local churches, start saying, you know, let them know as well. I cannot believe an hour is up. We have so much. This is so much all the time. I can never say thank you enough for continuing to join us. We're in such an amazing frustrating, but hopeful time for change. And seeing your faces, and even for the ones that I don't see your faces, I am forever grateful that we are taking this journey together, because we have a lot of work to do, and I love to hear what you're thinking and how we will do this together. We'll be back next week. I don't know what the topic is. The world is spinning very fast. So if you think of something, put it in the chat right now. I kind of want to get into more of the commitments. Now what do we really do? How do we do this together? That's kind of what I'm feeling that I want the next conversation to be. What are the tangible things you've been doing, and can share with all of us, or what you see someone else doing, so that we can do it together. So thank you again. I'll see you soon.